Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here, and welcome back to episode 4 of Season Rundown, where we will be reviewing Season 4 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Now, Season 4 is an interesting one for me because I watched the first 3 seasons with the intent of trying to understand why exactly people were interested in My Little Pony, because it didn't make sense to me that nerds my age would be interested in it. Not against anybody who was interested in it. It didn't make sense to me that a large group of nerds my age would be into it. And to be honest with you, I'm still baffled by how that is. But Season 4 was the first season I came to that I wasn't trying to figure that out anymore. I was just trying to watch the show because now I had discovered the fandom and they were explaining their views on it, etc., etc. And I wanted to keep watching the show so that I could keep watching their content. So it has a particular place in my memory. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the first 2 episodes. Princess Twilight Sparkle. This is where Twilight, you know, she's dealing with the fact that she's a princess and an alicorn and etc., etc. And then the other 2 princesses, Celestia and Luna, go missing. And it turns out that there are these plants attacking all of Equestria, and Twilight has to figure out how to stop the plants and rescue the princesses, etc., etc. Now, this is a really good episode. There's a really good episode and a really good opener to this season. There is a lot going on here. The 2 princesses, the 2 sisters are involved. Twilight finds their old castle. We learn a lot of lore about the world. We learn about the Tree of Harmony. We learn about where the elements of harmony came from. Just so much happens in this episode that it really shows the tone of shifting to the Dragon Ball Z-esque of My Little Pony. And I think the major shift here is, it's not that Twilight became a princess, though that is, you know, a big part of it. That's the part that people notice. It's that the show is starting to treat itself more seriously in a lore aspect, as if it has a final destination going on. Because, you know, slice of life shows, they don't have a final destination in mind. It's just characters doing what they do. But with an adventure series, you inevitably think it's going to end at some point. You know, take Avatar: The Last Airbender. You're thinking in your mind it's going to end when he defeats the Fire Lord or something like that. And that's where it feels like. I guess I should say it's starting to feel more like an adventure series. Even though there is going to be a lot of slice of life, the show as a whole feels like an adventure series with slice of life in there. And this episode firmly establishes that. Discord makes a return. He's great. This is what I want to see Discord doing. This is what I want to see. What he does in this episode. He shows up. He has this mysterious vibe about him, like maybe he knows what's going on, maybe he doesn't, maybe he's just trolling for the sake of trolling. And we learn at the end that he did know, and he could have just told them everything, and they could have solved the problem. But in doing so, he wouldn't have let Twilight learn the lesson. Twilight wouldn't have learned the lesson that she needed to learn. And that, I really like that about Discord, because Discord feels like, in some ways, he's wiser than the main 6. Or maybe he has more common sense? What's the best way of putting this? Like, he seems to have knowledge about certain things that they seem to miss. And I like that he can use his sense of chaos, because he is a being of chaos. Even if he's good, that's who he should be fundamentally, a being of chaos, to help them. You know, now he's not just being good, he's using chaos to be good. That's... almost had a fan moment there. That's really good characterization. Where if you want to take a character who used to be bad and make them good, you keep their core aspects. That's great. That's what I want to see from Discord. Overall, this episode is really good. I do have a few nitpicks. Before I get to my nitpicks though, the battle of the 2 sisters, just like this starts the whole kind of Dragon Ball Z kind of feeling that the battles have, which we will get to the season finale when we get there. Stay with this episode. But that fight was so many people were And when I say so many people, I mean bronies react. They were just amazed at how great that fight was. And I mean, I immediately knew, as soon as I saw Luna, I knew Twilight was in the past. But people didn't know. They thought Luna had turned evil a second time. Now, again, I do have some minor nitpicks. The potion, that was a Deus Ex Machina, if I ever seen one. Freaking just out of nowhere. We have no idea what's going on or what's happening. Oh, I'm Zecora. I just happen to have a potion here that works with alicorn magic, even though I would never, in any circumstances, know an alicorn. And it just happens to show you the exact thing that you need. Like, that is the most vague MacGuffin Deus Ex Machina you could come up with. And also, Eli Monty brought this up. There's no cadence in this episode. Cadence is just gone. Like, and this further establishes the concept I said about last season, where Cadence and Shining Armor, they feel like they don't really belong in the show, like they're just plopped there on the side, mainly for toy sales or whatever. But yeah, there is no mention of Cadence whatsoever in this episode, and it's a big deal because the main six eventually get to a point like, well, I don't think we can lose another princess. You're our last princess, Twilight. There is another princess. I mean, I guess the Crystal Empire isn't technically a part of Equestria, but there is another princess who can help with this. Like, it really felt like a real flaw there. But I don't think that entirely brings the episode down, because it was such a good episode, and I'm really trying to focus my brain on the parts that make it good, because I could just sit here for a good while just saying, oh, it was such a good episode. It was such a good episode, you know. But yeah, all the main six are in there. They're all at their core aspects. They're all doing good. Twilight is questioning her state of, you know, being a princess and whatnot, which is, she should, you know. She didn't expect to be a princess. It just kind of happened. And this is somewhat after the first Equestria Girls movie. But did you really just ring while I'm in the middle of recording? Freaking phone. But yeah, really good season opener. Despite that, it's still not my favorite, but it is really close. Like, really close. Bravo, though. Really good season opener right there. Episode 3, Castle Mania. This is where the main six go back to the Castle of the Two Sisters, which they discovered in the last episode, all for different purposes. You're not about to ring again, are you? Twilight goes there to study about the sisters' past. Rarity and Fluttershy go there because Rarity wants to what's the word I'm looking for? She wants to I'm gonna say redecorate. That's not the word I'm looking for, but she wants to redecorate the place. And Applejack and Rainbow Dash are there because they're currently in this competitive mood, excuse me, to see who can like stay in the castle the longest. And it's pretty much most of the cast being scared throughout the whole thing, and at the end, you know, Twilight comes together. It's like, oh, hey, it's just your imagination, blah, 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 blah. I think the highlights of this episode are the main six, again, splitting the main six into different groups and seeing how they work off each other. This time you got Rarity and Fluttershy, who I don't think we get much interaction with those two. You also have Applejack and Rainbow Dash. They've had interaction before, but Rarity and Fluttershy, you don't see much interaction. Angel Bunny is in this, and he continues to... I haven't really talked about Angel Bunny. Angel Bunny is one of the most annoying characters in the show. Hardly anyone likes him. There are some YouTubers out there who will defend him. I'm not one of them. I don't like Angel Bunny. This episode is a good reason why. He pretty much abandons Fluttershy in that trap. He goes off, but not to get help, but he just chillaxes with Twilight, and it's annoying. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Overall, the episode is really good, and it does stick with me. I think season 4 onwards, more episodes are going to start sticking with me. For the reasons I stated earlier, this is where I really got into the fandom. Episode 4, Daring Don't. This is when the main six find out that Twilight and Rainbow Dash favorite book, Daring Do, the Daring Do series, they find out that the author of the books actually is Daring Do herself. I would say overall I feel negative about this episode because of what it implies. There's a fan theory that Twilight's mom was the author of the books. I didn't find that out until after I saw this episode, but even still, that was a very good headcanon, that Twilight's mom being the author of the books. That it makes a lot of sense. But even if you take that out of the picture and like we didn't know or care who the author was, what I like about fictional worlds is when they have aspects that certain people don't think about when it comes to the realm of fiction, but it's still there. Like fiction. Fiction is one of them. No matter what world you live in, you're gonna have fiction. You're gonna have legends, you're gonna have myths, you're gonna have stories. Like right now, you might just say, well, that's just our world. Right now, we live in a high technological society. Like, if you talk to somebody from like 500 years ago, or even past that, 2,000 years ago, and you told them about the world we live in today, we would be considered sci-fi. Like, we've got computers in the palm of our hands. We have computers. We can communicate with anybody across the world instantly. It's ridiculous, and yet we still have fiction. We still have movies that we go see. We still have comic books that we read. We still have cartoons about ponies that we watch. No matter what world you live in, no matter how fictional it is, it itself is going to have fiction. So it upset me that they took one of the major fictional components out of it and said, no, this is really happening. It's just happening in another part of Equestria. And it makes the world feel less real to me. Because I just think that's something any world would have. Kind of like sports. Any world would have sports. And another thing I don't like about this episode is Rainbow Dash's mood. I mean, some people... I felt that it was out of character when I first saw it. I don't know if I would say the same thing this time around. Some people have argued for it being in character, but even still, it makes me feel uncomfortable just seeing how unsure of herself she is. Rainbow Dash is very sure of herself, and to see her get this stage fritten, I don't know if that's a word, in front of someone she it's someone she idolizes, so you can kind of wrap it around your head, but it just left an overall uncomfortable feeling, especially considering she was messing so many things up. It was just annoying. So overall, I'm not insulted, so maybe disappointed. Maybe disappointed, maybe disliked, somewhere in there. Episode 5, Flight to the Finish. Oh, this episode. This is another episode involving the Equestria Games. The CMC and their class are told that they can, as Phillies, have the opportunity to carry the flag for their town. And the CMC decide that they want to be the team that does that. And so they create this really good routine through a song montage of them showcasing what's special about Equestria. And Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon become jealous. And so they really step up their game in bullying. Like, from before, it was just blank, 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 and we saw the CMC getting used to that and just really standing up to them, which I said I liked. I liked that they started standing up to the whole blank flake, and it started not phasing them. And then they say they make fun of Scootaloo for the fact that she can't fly, and just wow. It's like, I want to be really angry at these kids, but at the same time, I know they're kids, and kids can be some mean people. And it is effective. It gets to Scootaloo. And what's happening on the sidelines is Rainbow Dash is the judge of who's going to represent. But Rainbow Dash was told to keep herself under control and not show over enthusiasm. So when she sees the CMC, she's like, yeah, it's good. But she doesn't get her usual excited self, and the CMC, as people who hang out with Rainbow Dash, can tell this. And they're like, well, maybe we didn't do as good as we could have. So Scootaloo is really doubting herself in this episode. And then it's like she tries to change the routine because she tries to force herself to fly. And Rainbow Dash is saying, she's like, you had a good routine, just stick with that routine, you know, trying to keep herself calm. And Scootaloo is so frustrated that she can't fly that she just doesn't want to compete at all. And her friends say, well, we don't want to quit her in our group. And so they just leave her. And it's a complicated situation because I understand that mentality, that somebody who just, when you're so determined to win and you have somebody who just, they don't have the drive to do it, and you're like, fine, we'll do it irregardless of whether you want to or not. You are not going to stop us. Because you have in your mind, nothing is going to stop me from achieving this. So when your friend steps up and says they don't want to do it, you still have that in your mind. And it doesn't really occur to you, it doesn't always occur to you that you can say, no, don't leave. Because that kind of feels like a waste of time sometimes. Because you have to try to convince them not to leave when you know what you want. I'm not going to say what Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle did was right, but I'm not going to say it was wrong either, like the episode does. The episode says it's wrong, and I'm not going to call the episode wrong for saying it was wrong. It's a complicated situation. And then, I had to calm myself down. You guys, if you frequent my channel, you know how I feel about the fear of failure. The thought that you're not going to accomplish something, so that stops you from even trying. Rainbow Dash and the CMC, the rest of the CMC, go to Scootaloo. And the CMC, the other two CMC apologized. They said they should have helped her get out of her phone. And, oh my goodness, this line is the best, most beautiful comeback I have ever heard. I shouldn't say comeback, response to somebody who has a fear of failing. And, oh my goodness, Scootaloo says, but Rainbow Dash, what if I never learn to fly? And Rainbow Dash said, I am tearing up just thinking about this line. Rainbow Dash says, listen, Scoot, maybe you'll fly someday, maybe you won't. You're all kinds of awesome anyway. It's perfect! My voice just broke, but man, I don't even care. It's perfect! That is exactly what somebody who's going through the fear of failure needs to hear. That is it right there. Because you might... There's too many messages out there that says you should try because you will succeed. And that annoys me to no end. But at the same time, you can't say, no, don't try. You're probably going to fail. No. Maybe you'll succeed. Maybe you won't. But try anyway. Because you'll accomplish something. And the episode overall isn't like... I don't know if I can say it's one of my favorites, but I see it as one of my favorites because that line right there is just so powerful, man. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on about that line. It's good. It is good. I'm not even joking, guys. I am seriously tearing up just thinking about that line. If I had heard that line during some times in my life, man. Okay. But that's that. I really like this episode. The song, I am talking a lot during this one. The song is pretty good. I like the message behind it. You know, people who are determined and they're gonna get their goal. And a lot of people were disappointed Scootaloo didn't get her cutie mark in this episode, and I can certainly see why. But it's overall, it's a good episode. It is a great episode, and that one moment for me is just so memorable. That's like one of my, now that I've seen that, it's one of my personal quotes. Maybe you'll fly someday, maybe you won't. You're all kinds of awesome anyway. I apologize for the cracking of my throat. I have a lot to say about this season, a lot more to say than I normally do. Episode 6, Power Ponies. This is where the my expectations of the show finally come to light. The main 6 get sucked into one of Spike's comic books along with Spike, and and they all get superpowers. Sadly, it's also a Spike episode. I mean, it's not as bad as the past Spike episodes, but it's still not very good as a Spike episode. It's interesting to see all these different powers that they get, which, you know, each power is very reflective of the main 6. I especially like Pinkie Pies and Rarities. Like, that just makes too much sense to me that Rarity would be a lantern. But, you know, the whole focus is on Spike and how he feels like a sidekick and how he feels not needed. And it really does not make sense to his character, because there are so many times throughout the show where Twilight is confirming that she does need him. She calls him her #1 assistant. It's just this one time that he wasn't needed. And he gets down. It's kind of like that episode, Sokka's Master, where Sokka just randomly feels like he's not special. And just like in that episode, it's not really the focused character that does something out of character. You know, in that episode, it was Aang who did something out of character, which made Sokka feel useless. In this episode, Twilight's like, yeah, we're gonna need you tomorrow. And you know, in other episodes where they don't need Spike, they tell him that, and he goes off and does something else. This episode, Twilight was like, we're going to need you tomorrow. We're going to need you tomorrow. And then she's just like, okay, we don't need you. You can go and read your comic book. You know, I don't know why. But the Castle of the Two Sisters comes back. I like that that's a reoccurring thing. The Castle of the Two Sisters. But overall, I'm going to say I was rather disappointed. You know, I have been waiting for such a long time for them to showcase superheroes. But the focus on Spike it makes no sense, and it's not entertaining to watch. It's not entertaining to watch this character that we know is useful constantly say, oh, I'm so useless. Self-deprecation is not fun by itself. Like, there needs to be a reason for it, and Spike really had no reason to do it. So at least they're getting better at Spike episodes. I mean, it's a thing. Episode 7, Bats. I actually have a history with this episode. I used to get MLP on cable, and I was watching every episode, but I missed this one. And it took forever for this one to come on television. And it was to come up again on television, which is weird because usually on the Hub, they show the new episode and then they show it again the next week. I guess I missed it twice. I think maybe I was in the middle of watching season 3 when this episode aired. And then after I was done with season 3, I started watching season 4. This was the only one that took forever to come on. Anyway, done with that one. This was when there's an infestation in Applejack's farm. And it's the vampire fruit bats. And Applejack just wants to get rid of them. But Fluttershy says that this is actually good for her farm in the long term, and that it's not really fair to try to outcast these creatures who they're just being in their natural habitat. They're just doing what they do. That's their nature. And Applejack is worried because her farm faced an infestation before. She doesn't. It made her crops go on shortage, and she doesn't want to go through that again. So, like, all the main 5 kind of pressure Fluttershy into using her stare, which I thought was something she couldn't activate on command, but I guess they retconned that in the Keep Calm and Flutter On episode. But in doing so, it has an adverse effect. It creates Flutterbat, which a lot of people really like Flutterbat. I don't really care about Flutterbat that much. And I'd say overall it's a good episode. There were some parts that annoyed me, you know. This is the point where Twilight being a princess and the show not really acknowledging it kind of annoyed me, because I was, you know, they were all discussing this like a group. I'm like, you guys have an authority figure right there. Like, shouldn't she be making the decision? I guess in hindsight, that's not true because it's Applejack's farm and whatnot and whatnot. But I always thought, and I felt really bad that they were pressuring Fluttershy to do something she was morally against. It's like, well, it's a group decision. We all decided. You know, if that were me, I'd have been like, I don't care if you all decided. I ain't doing it. You do it if you want them gone so badly. Figure out another way. But I'm not Fluttershy. So I'd say overall it's a very memorable episode. Probably not for me, but it is a very memorable episode. I feel slightly above meh. I mean, I liked it. So it'll probably be somewhere between meh and like. It all depends. Episode 8, Rarity takes Manehattan. This is when Rarity and company... There are a lot of episodes with all of the main 6 in this season. I just noticed that. This is when Rarity and the gang all go to Manehattan. And Rarity's competing in a fashion show. And she expresses how she feels generous. Like, it... Okay, let me stick to the plot synopsis. And then what happens is her generosity winds up getting the better of her. Somebody takes advantage of it. And she starts taking advantage of her friend's generosity as a result. And it leads to pretty much where you would think it would lead to. She winds up winning the fashion show, but she feels guilty about it, blah, blah, blah. This is the first of the rainbow thing. I didn't talk about that. There is an overarching plot going on in this season, and I think it might be the only season that has done this so far with an overarching plot. And that's in the in the first 2 episodes they got the box. They didn't know what was in it, and now pretty much they had to get the 6 keys for it. And this is the first episode that involves one of those keys. It's a memorable episode for me because the song keeps coming up on my Pandora. It's not really a song I like too much, but it keeps coming up, so I keep remembering this episode. The episode overall, I feel kind of meh towards. I said before, I don't feel that Rarity is the generous one, and whenever they put it out there, it feels like they're throwing it in your face to say, "Hey, she's generous. She's generous." I mean, it makes sense for this episode because this is the first key episode, so Rarity's generosity needs to come into play here. But what they call generosity, I don't consider generosity. When you're inspired to help somebody in the way that you like, and I don't know, it's a meh episode, but I just don't like Rarity and generosity together. Like I really do not. Rarity is sincere more than anything. Episode 9, Pinkie Apple Pie. Definitely an insta-fave for one very specific reason. We're apples forever, apples together. You gotta love that song, man. It's so freaking catchy. The animation on it is good. You know, I don't talk about the animation a lot, but it's everybody's singing role fits their character. Like even Big Mac, I know a lot of people are annoyed that Big Mac doesn't get a lot of speaking roles, but even him just saying, yep, the whole time, it really fits him. And I just love that song. Like that's a competitor for one of my favorite songs. It's between that and a True Friend. Like, but let's talk about the episode itself. This is where Pinkie finds out that she might be related to Applejack through a very, very distant relative. And so, but they're not sure, so they all go on a trip to find out whether or not it's true. And during the trip, Applejack wants to show Pinkie Pie the best side of their family. So she kind of tells everybody to temper the bad parts of themselves. And, they're a family. So being a family, they argue like a family. They get along exactly how a family would do. And it's a very good message about, I'm saying family a lot. Family. When you have a good family like that, you're gonna argue. Anybody you spend a long time with, you're gonna argue with. It's just how it is, because nobody's perfect, and even if they were perfect, their perfectness doesn't match up with your perfectness. So it just happens. But in the end, you're still a family. you would rather them be there to argue with than them not be there. That's just how it is. You know, it's a simple message about family, but it's done really well. I feel that all the Apple's cores and weaknesses, the Apple's core strengths and weaknesses are on full view, you know, and I think it actually shows somewhat of character development with characters like Big Mac and Granny Smith. You know, Big Mac is strong, so he doesn't realize how fragile everything else can be, and etc., etc. I believe Silver Quill went more over this in his video. But it's overall a really good episode. I really love this episode, mainly for the song. Yes, I'm biased. Get over it. We're apples to the core. Episode 10, Rainbow Falls. Oh, wow. We hit the complete opposite spectrum, didn't we? This is where Rainbow Dash goes to Rainbow Falls with Fluttershy and Bulk Biceps. She's going to be on their team for the Equestria Games. It's another Equestria Games episode. And it's also another overarching episode because Rainbow's loyalty is put into test. And she's offered a spot on the Wonderbolt's team, but she feels guilty because she's already agreed to compete with Ponyville. And it really didn't feel like a choice to me. Like, to me, this felt like the exact same scenario in episode 2. When of season 1, sorry, episode 2, season 1, when the Shadow Bolts said, "Hey, you can be on our team, but all you have to do is abandon your friends." It feels like the exact same scenario to me. So it didn't feel like this was a choice. I was just thinking, haven't we been here before? I mean, the Shadow Bolts who claimed they were even better than the Wonderbolts, and they told you to abandon your friends, like, the elements of loyalty. I'm sorry. I mean, they try to play up that component that, oh, you're from Cloudsdale, and yeah, it is her dream to be a Wonderbolt. I've said with that one episode with Rarity, I can't remember what it's called, where I can understand wanting to be popular in your field and gain that popularity, but and I also said that I can understand where your priorities shift, but it didn't make sense to me because Rainbow Dash already went through this. It did not make sense to me. And whereas if I was in Rarity's case, I might have chosen to, you know, do these different events to increase my popularity, I would not have ducked out. Even if I did duck out, I would have been confident about it. I would have went to my friends and been like, yo, there's an opportunity with the Wonderbolts. Do you guys mind if I go with them instead? I guess it's just another one of those moments where dishonesty comes into play, and we all know how I feel about dishonesty. It doesn't make sense to me. Just be upfront with what you're thinking, with your, and I don't know, and you know, her at the end, I know Fluttershy didn't mind. Bulk Biceps probably didn't mind either. And Twilight guilt tripping Rainbow Dash, you know, that doesn't work. I didn't really notice it until somebody pointed it out. Again, I think it was Silver Quill, that Twilight was just guilt-tripping Rarity. I keep calling her freaking Rarity. Guilt-tripping Rainbow Dash into doing what she thought was the best solution. And it's whatever. I don't like this episode. I do not like this episode. Derpy was in it, though. That was fun. Episode 11, Three's a Crowd. This is when Cadence comes to visit Twilight Sparkle for some kind of festival. I don't know. They have a ton of festivals. And then Discord comes, a sick Discord comes, and he pretty much ruins their time because he wants Twilight to take care of him. And we find out that he actually just wanted Twilight to prove that she's his friend. She really is his friend. Fluttershy is conveniently removed from the picture. I think, you know, Discord saw that was a good opportunity. You know, Fluttershy was out, so there wouldn't be anybody there to handle him. I like this episode. I like Discord in this episode. He's not as strong as he was in the first episode with what I like about him. Like I said, I like that he causes chaos. I like that he manipulates people. And I like that it's to get them to learn a lesson. The thing about it is, the lesson he was really trying to teach Twilight didn't really seem necessary for Twilight. I mean, yeah, Twilight does have this really weird sense of friendship. Like, she doesn't go out and make friends. She makes her friendship bonds closer. So she kind of keeps Discord at a distance. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna say I feel meh overall. I want to like this episode more for what it is because of Discord, but I don't. It is what it is. Episode 12, Pinkie Pride. This is where we are introduced to Cheese Sandwich, another party pony, and Pinkie Pie, who was making plans for Rainbow Dash's birthday versary, feels she's being upstaged by Cheese Sandwich. A really, really good episode. It's another overarching episode because this is where Pinkie's laughter comes into play. Pinkie wants to make people laugh, and she lets her pride get in the way of doing that. And I'm trying to think of... I really like this episode, but there's something in me that is annoyed, and I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know what it is. It is a really good episode, and it's a really good episode, and it's one I really, really like. And I like the message behind it, you know. Being the best in that situation was not the problem. You know, Pinkie Pie lives by making people happy. And if Cheese Sandwich happened to be the best solution, then that's what she should have went with. I don't know. I feel like I have more to say about this episode than I'm saying right now. But I'm just going to say that I did really like the episode. It was a really good episode. Episode 13, Simple Ways. This was when Rarity has a crush on this traveling writer. Oh, let me start over. Rarity is in charge of arranging another festival for Ponyville. And this writer is coming down to do an article on it. And she has a major crush on him because of all the stuff he has done. All the stuff he's written. And it turns out the writer, Tenderhoof, I think is his name, sees Applejack and starts getting a crush on her instead. So it becomes this love triangle thing, and Rarity starts trying to become like Applejack. That part where Rarity starts becoming like Applejack is kind of cringy, but at the same time, I found it more funny than I did cringy. And the part where Applejack started being more prissy, like Rarity, that was hilarious. Spike, though, oh my goodness. Spike handled that news well. Really well. Especially for somebody his age. Rarity looked them in the face and said she had a crush on someone else. She's like, do you know how frustrating it is for someone you have a crush on to have a crush on someone else? And Spike just gives one of the greatest looks ever. It's just like, he handled that real well. Oh, one more thing. I want to talk about love interests, since, you know, this is an episode about love interests, because I made this whole hullabaloo about Timber Spruce, and I've been having conversations with people about Flash Sentry. And I feel that, you know, because I feel that both Flash Sentry and Timber Spruce are horrible examples of a love interest. And here, Rarity, I think, has very good examples of love interest. And I know people are probably confused by that because Rarity has not had a crush on somebody who has been good for her yet. You know, she's had Prince Blueblood, and she's had this guy, Tenderhoof, whatever his name is. But that's the thing. These characters, as love interests, brought out aspects of Rarity. Rarity had a certain mentality of royalty, of what Prince Blueblood would be like. That she thought he would be a refined gentleman, and he wasn't at all. And that brought out more aspects about Rarity. And then there's Tenderhoof. She had this major crush on Tenderhoof, but then found out he had tastes for things that were different. And he had never really been on a farm before, so he got a taste for Applejack. And that in turn made Rarity learn something about herself. That's why I know that we'll probably get into more of this with the Equestria girls, but I feel that those two are really good love interests because they brought something out of Rarity, and Rarity brought out something of them, certain aspects, certain character realizations. That's not really necessary traits, but realizations of the characters, and that's what I think love interests should do for characters. Their personalities should bring out certain aspects, character aspects, to the audience. I hope I am making sense. Again, we'll get more of this when we get into the Equestria Girls videos. But I think Tenderhoof, jeez, I cannot remember this guy's name. I think Tenderhoof did a good job of being a love interest. You know, most of the characters in MLP are good. Most of them. Episode 14, Filli Vanilli. This is when Fluttershy joins the Pony Tones because Big Macintosh has a sore throat. Fluttershy doesn't want to join the Pony Tones because she has massive stage fright, but she does it anyway because it's for charity, and she sings in the background so nobody can see her. So Big Mac is really just lip syncing. In the end, she gets discovered and everybody loves her, but it's her greatest fear, so she freaks out. Another episode with a fantastic song, and because of that, it really oh my goodness, this song is amazing. Freaking everything about, first of all, that beat is on point, and then Rarity. I don't know what's going on with Rarity, but man, they need to do stuff like that more often. Those vocals that she has, man. Yeah, I mainly like this episode for this song, and they sing it so many times. The second version of it, where they're actually on stage and Fluttershy is doing the voiceover, that right there, I just be jamming to that all the time, man. Now the actual episode itself, Pinkie Pie was kind of annoying in this one. Really, she was really not helping. And it's overall, it does show growth to Fluttershy. You know, she says she takes baby steps and whatnot. I really like this episode, but not for what it is, for the song. And typical Shady, you know, can't separate his feelings from the song and the episode. I don't even know why I watch this guy's videos. Just makes me annoyed. His stupid Doorags, and his stupid shades, and his stupid headphones that he wears for reasons we still don't know. Episode 15, Twilight Time. This is when the CMC invests studying time with Twilight, and Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara find out, and they start making the CMC more popular. Because, you know, if you start hanging out with somebody important, people start thinking you're important, and you can kind of start using them for that. I wouldn't know anything about that. You know, it's not like I know any famous YouTubers who I take advantage of. Oh, I'm gonna pay for that. So the CMC pretty much learned the lesson that you really shouldn't be hanging out with people for their popularity, even though they weren't. And they also learned the lesson that you shouldn't be abusing people's popularity status. You know, name dropping just because it'll boost your reputation and whatnot. I like this episode. The thing that stands out to me the most is Twilight and how she's portrayed as a teacher, which I think is what Twilight should be doing. I think that's her calling in life, to be a teacher, which I guess technically she is, just not to the best of students. Yeah, I like the CMC, but because of that, this episode just really gets a like. I like the CMC. I like what Twilight did. Not too much to say about that. I don't want to ramble too long, which I tend to do because rambling is fun and I like to go on tangents about things that aren't really important, but they just keep my mouth moving and it keeps the video somewhat interesting as long as I keep talking, because I can keep a subject going for as long as I possibly can without ending it with run-on sentences. Episode 16, It Ain't Easy Being Breezy. Oh my freaking goodness, this episode. I liked the episode, but it annoyed the mess out of me. This is when the Breezys come into town, and a couple of them get knocked off course, so Fluttershy starts to take care of them, but she winds up over taking care of them, and they don't want to go home. But in the meantime, there's this one Breezy who is constantly telling her, we need to go home. I need to get home. Like, if we don't leave, we'll be stuck here. And the Breezy can't go by themselves because they're very fragile creatures. And the thing is, throughout this whole episode, I was on that one Breezy side. I was just so frustrated. I was like, get that dude home. He wants to go home. And I know what the episode was saying. You shouldn't be too kind as well as be too aggressive. Because even if you're right, people aren't going to listen to you if you're too aggressive. But at the same time, I sympathize with that dude way too much. Like, they wouldn't listen to him. They just would not listen to him. And especially when I saw the end and I saw he had a kid. Like, I wanted to throw something. I was like, y'all was keeping that man from his kid? And you almost kept him there for like a year from his kid? Just, that frustrated me. I mean, it's a good episode. It's another overarching episode. Fluttershy gets her key. But, holy the dongles did it annoy me. I'm gonna say that I like the episode. I'm gonna say that. Maybe. I don't know. I might change my mind when I'm editing the video. But just episode 17. Somepony to watch over me. Oh my goodness. Another frustrating episode. This is when Applejack becomes overprotective of Apple Bloom. And so to prove her independence, Apple Bloom goes off on her own into an extremely dangerous swamp with, I don't know, what, a chimera or something? I don't know, some kind of three-headed animal. And the lesson is about, letting go and whatnot. Applejack is just, I don't know, she's just stupid in this episode. It's just annoying how stupid. And I'm not saying overprotective parents are necessarily stupid, because I understand being an overprotective parent, but Applejack just seems out of characteristically overprotective. Like, she can't trust Apple Bloom to do chores. Like, they live on a farm. Apple Bloom has chores out the wazoo. Stereotype casting Shady Doorags. But I've seen from past episodes that Apple Bloom has had chores. Like, it was annoying watching Applejack be this overprotective of her sister. It was just, and then the freaking, I hate shows where the lesson is about somebody has to earn their independence by rebellion. I hate that. I really do. Now, let me explain something. I understand that rebellion builds up a sense of independence. I wasn't very rebellious as a child. And because of that, I became reliant on a lot of people when I became an adult. So I understand that when you're rebellious, you become less reliant on other people. I do understand that. But I hate how cartoons fantasize it so much. Like, it's the best solution. If you rebel against your parent, they'll start seeing you as a more respected individual. They'll get more frustrated and want to stop dealing with you. I mean, that sounded way harsher than I meant for it to sound. Your parents not just gonna abandon you because you rebelled against them. But I'm saying, like, a mindset grows up and it's just like, I don't want to have to deal with this. It starts building up, and that's not what happened to Apple Bloom. Apple Bloom was just like, oh, well, you went out to this very dangerous place where you weren't ready for, and you would have been killed had I not showed up. But you know what? I respect you. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for that, because I know a lot of people in Western societies value independence and value going against authority. I believe authority exists for a reason. I know there is a time and place when you have to go against said authority, but I think there is a respectful way to do it. And again, I think there is a time and place for radical rebellion, but at the same time, I think there are established consequences. I mean, sure, Apple Bloom was, grounded, but she was respected more. And it's a philosophy I'm seeing that I'm constantly feeling like I'm in a minority, because cartoons are constantly supporting it, and a lot of people are constantly supporting the cartoons that constantly support it, and I'm annoyed by it. So, that's that. I did not like this episode. I did not like what happened. Applejack fell out of character. I did not like the moral. I just did not like this episode. Episode 18, Mod Pie. Probably the best freaking episode in the entire show. Why? Because Mod Pie. I am hyping this episode up way too much. Freaking, but like Mod Pie. Mod Pie. Come on, that's all I have to say. Everybody in the fandom loves Mod Pie, and it's so interesting. Okay, to the episode. This is where Pinkie Pie's sister, Mod Pie, comes to visit Ponyville. Pinkie Pie wants Mod to be best friends with her friends, just like she is. But Mod is so different from the other main six that they can't really see themselves being friends. Mod can't see herself being friends with them. They can't see themselves being friends with Mod. And really good moment when the other main five stepped up and said, okay, you want us to do this rock candy thing with your sister as a symbol that we're the best of friends. But we honestly don't feel like we're the best of friends. You guys know I hate lying, so naturally I feel really good about honesty. And that was a genuinely honest moment. And by genuinely honest, I mean it was difficult to be honest in that moment. And they still were. Because they knew if they weren't, it would bring up more problems. And I really like that. It annoys me because in Suited for Success, they did something similar where they were telling Rarity, we don't like your dresses, but we are thankful for them. And everybody in the fandom and the show gets on their case, gets on the main sister's case, like, oh, how dare you be that honest? You should just be grateful. Like, but everybody's happy that they do it in this episode, but they're not happy when they do it in that episode. But anyway, after that, Pinkie, you know, she's determined to make this work. So she builds this contraption where it has elements of everything everybody likes. But it almost, when she goes through the contraption, she almost gets hurt. And in doing so, Mod saves her through her ridiculously amazing super jackhammer skills. And at the end, the main five realize that they can be friends with Mod because they all care about Pinkie Pie, and that's something they have in common. Now, the only nitpick I have with this episode is the lesson that, hey, you're friends with my friend, so I can be friends with you. To me, that's not enough to have in common to be friends. I've seen some people say that in order to be friends, you just need to find some kind of common ground. So I guess I just have a different interpretation of friendship than most people. But I don't want to be somebody's friend just because they're friends with my friend. I realize I sound really jerkish, but I'm an honest guy. That's just how it is. But other than that, this episode is so really good, and it's all thanks to Mod Pie. Mod is such a good foil for whatever character you want to put her with. And I get on Timber Spruce's case for being able to say something to any character he goes, but Timber's not foiling anyone. That's the thing about Timber. He's not really foiling, he's just connecting like a skeleton key. Mod's personality is so distinct that you can put her with any of the main six and something interesting happens. Like, even with Pinkie, who is completely accepting of Mod Pie and completely understands her, her high energetic personality contrasts so heavily with Mod's stoicness. And that's the thing, Mod is a stoic character. Like, we give stoic characters so much grief nowadays, ever since the Matrix, because like, it's just easy to just sit there and say, oh, they have no personality, they have a troubled past, and it did all this and messed them up, and now they can't really emote to anything. Mod didn't have any of that. Mod had a fine past. Mod is actually a very happy person. She just doesn't show it. And that's why I think, I'm still trying to figure out Mod's character, because it is a fascinating case study of how such a stoic character can be so loved by the community. I think one of the reasons why Mod works out so well is because she still has feelings. They're just not displayed through her face. And I also think because when they are displayed through her face, it's so powerful for the audience. Like at the end, when this part got my heart warmed so much when Mod opened up a chest full of rock candy necklaces I was just as confused as Twilight. Twilight's like, you didn't eat them? And Maud says, I'm not really into rock candy. And I don't really like rock candy. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. She doesn't really like traditional sweets. It's Maud Pie, that makes sense. And then she turns, she smiles for like the first time in the episode and says, but I do love Pinkie. That was genuinely heartwarming to see a stoic character like that smile just one time throughout the episode. Even though you can tell in other parts she felt emotions. That's what, like, you can tell this character feels emotions despite her being stoic. I'm trying to figure out how they are doing this. Are they maybe just giving expositions through Pinkie and I'm just not realizing it? Because Pinkie does say a lot of things like, oh, I've never seen her so happy, or something like that. I don't know, but Maud is a fantastic character. It's debatable whether or not Maud is actually my favorite character currently. It's between her and Rarity. I really like Rarity because she reminds me a lot of my sister, but Maud is she's just such a good character in her own self. So yeah, really, really like this episode. This was, Maud was a freaking great addition to the show. Good job, MLP staff. Good job. Episode 19, For Whom the Sweetie Belle Tolls. This is an awkward episode for me. This is when Sweetie Belle becomes jealous of Rarity because Rarity makes costumes. Rarity, at the request of Sweetie Belle, makes costumes for her play. And at the end of the play, Sweetie Belle asked everybody how they liked it, and they said they loved it. And she asked everybody what did they love about it, and they all say the costumes. And none of them can remember anything else. So they only liked what Rarity contributed. Sweetie Belle gets furious and jealous and says that her sister is always taking the spotlight from her. So she sabotages Rarity's project, but then is visited by Luna. Luna makes an appearance, again helping out little Fillies. That's kind of a redundant, little Fillies. And then Sweetie Belle tries to fix the problem that she's caused. This episode is awkward for me because I am a middle child. I have felt both Sweetie Belle and Rarity's. I've been more so on the case of Rarity's side, though, where you have that, where the younger sibling sees that the older sibling gets a lot of attention, and it feels like it's easy for them, and they don't understand that all the in-betweens. You know, Sweetie Belle didn't understand that Rarity did a lot of things for Sweetie Belle and stuff like that, and I've been on both sides of the spectrum. And so I would say that this episode is really relatable to me. However, even when I was on the Sweetie Belle side, I never really justified my actions. I never really acted upon those emotions, but I never justified those emotions. I just looked at myself and said, this is an emotion I feel, but it's a bad one. So it was kind of annoying to see Sweetie Belle sabotage her sister's work on one of her most important clients. I mean, you could make the argument that Sweetie Belle's a child, so she didn't really fully understand, but that annoyed the mess out of me to see her do that for an emotion that I felt but did not justify when I felt it. So, yeah, that pretty much enraged me. I want to say, overall, it's a good episode because it gets the points across. And Luna, I love that Luna solves this problem because Luna was the jealous sister. She tried to destroy her sister out of jealousy. It makes so much sense that she would help Sweetie Belle in this situation. And to be there physically, for a princess to be there physically, that's probably a big thing, but I can see it related to her. It related to her situation a lot. So I want to say that this, even though this episode frustrated me, like, I do feel that it has a really positive message in trying, you know, about sibling understanding and whatnot. And it just, but it has to make Sweetie Belle unlikable for someone like me in order to do it. And so watching this episode did frustrate me. Episode 20, Leap of Faith. Leap of Faith. This is where Applejack starts lying because the Flim Flam brothers are back. They make this elixir that they say can heal all ails, and Granny Smith believes it works, but it doesn't. So Applejack starts stretching the truth. I'm going to start off by saying I did like the diction of Applejack's lies. Unlike, I can't remember the name of that episode, but that other infamous episode where Applejack lies. Unlike that one, Applejack didn't necessarily lie here. She was, you know, she said, I remember one specific one. She said, it seems to work for Granny Smith. That wasn't a lie. And I like that. And I like that she still felt guilty about it. I'm not saying that made it okay. I like that she wasn't lying. I like that she wasn't being false. I guess that's just the logic side of me, you know. I'm not saying, let me make this clear. I'm not saying that I like that she lied. I'm not saying that wasn't morally okay. I'm saying I like that how it was worded so that it wasn't a lie. That's clever writing. What is this? Why is my thumb out? But then it gets a bunch of the parts I don't like about this episode. I really do not like what they did to Flim and Flam. I really do not like that. Because if you remember my original thoughts on Flim and Flam, I wanted Applejack to learn something from them. And I felt that they cared about their customers as much as Applejack did. For them to make a product that blatantly doesn't work, it just does not work. And they are explicitly lying to people. To me, that just threw their character off a cliff. Just complete their character. Like they are kind of one character, Flim and Flam. But it just threw them off a cliff. Like, who would trust them after that? Who would trust them as business people after that? And it annoys me to see these characters who have a different mindset than Applejack being portrayed as con artists, like people who put, like I've said this before, people who put making money first. It annoys me when they put that above everything else. It's like, oh, we're not going to make a quality product, but we can just make a quick buck. That's very, I understand it happens. I do understand it happens. It's just, I don't like it when every single person is portrayed that way. You know, people who want to make money care about their products. There are people like that who exist, and I was really hoping Flim and Flam would be characters like that. So that annoyed me to no end. Silver Quill brought out a lot of moments of also why this, I should say Silver Quill and Company. They brought out a lot of moments of why this episode was also could have been way better in other aspects. I didn't personally see those when I was watching, but I do see them now. So yeah, overall, I just no. This is another overarching episode, by the way. It seems that the overarching episodes I'm not really liking too much, or I'm finding something negative about them. Like, the only one I haven't had something negative to say was the Pinkie Pie one, and that's because I did have something negative to say, I just couldn't think of it. I don't know. Anyway, episode 21, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is where Rainbow Dash is ill-prepared to take the Wonderbolt's written exam because she has trouble studying. So Twilight tries to help her study, but all these different studying methods didn't work. Good episode, and I think it's a good episode to teach kids. I mean, it doesn't really stick to me personally, but the thing about grade school is, the thing about school is that when I was in grade school, I did really, really well. Because I'm considered a very intellectual person. I know that sounds like I'm bragging, but it just is. I have a rather high IQ. And I know that sounds like I'm bragging, but it just is. I meant to say, but it's just true. I have a rather high IQ. So I didn't really struggle too much at school. And because I was such an obedient child, I was often on the teacher's good side. So even in classes I did struggle with, teachers went out of their way to help me. But there are a lot of kids who can't say that. There are a lot of kids who can't say that they're good at traditional study. I've actually learned through my experiences in college that when it comes to a subject I'm not good at, traditional studying actually doesn't work for me. So I like that there's an episode that promotes different ways of studying, because now we have so many tools. You can do traditional if it works for you, but now we have like YouTube, which is creative ways of learning. We have intellectual people, like if you've ever seen the YouTube channel Thug Notes, you know, it's a nice silly way of talking about literature and it gets you thinking, gets conversations going. And there's a lot of ways right now to become a more intellectual person, and you don't have to do it through traditional means. I am one of those people who agrees that the current education system right now is very flawed. Traditional learning is not the only way to test kids, and it's annoying. Like I learned that as I was in college, because the only thing that was pushed was traditional learning. And I started doing non-traditional methods, and they started working so much better for me in subjects I wasn't really well versed in. So this episode wasn't too memorable to me at the time, but I highly appreciate that it's there. There was a lot of people who had issues with Pinkie rapping, because people just have issues against raps in general, and that annoys me. And I want to take a moment to explain why, because I did a lot of rapping growing up. I used to rap for my church, and it annoys me that people, even if you don't consider it music, I understand that, because I don't consider certain types of rock music. But if somebody else likes that, I don't really go around dissing them for it. And people were saying that this isn't music. Like, Pinkie Pie is not being, and they were angry at MLP for incorporating rap, as if MLP was trying to appeal to a demographic, when really it was a parody. In the 90s, they used rap videos like that to help people learn, and they even dimmed down the quality of, or they created an illusion of dimmed down quality for the parody joke to work. And people were just so fixated on, because in the 90s, the 90s and 2000s, we were given so many cartoons with forced rap songs. People saw this and they just got so angry. Oh, you're just trying to appeal to the kids using stereotypes. No, they were making a really well-written joke. The joke worked in all aspects. They used Pinkie Pie, the fourth wall breaker. The joke worked. Just calm down, he said in his rant video about the boning video. So anyway, I think it's an overall good episode. It doesn't really stand out to me. It's not one I go back and watch, but it is one I might go back and like show people or talk to people about. Episode 22, Traja. This is when the main six go back to Rainbow Falls and they participate in a trading auction. It's an overall okay episode. I feel meh towards it. There were some parts that annoyed me, like the fact that the lady just randomly up and changed her mind about the dog she wanted. And she demanded that Fluttershy come and train it. Come on, really? Really? Like, I wasn't mad at Rainbow for saying yes. Rainbow was caught in the moment. I was mad at that lady for asking for something like that. Like, that's not a good request. But the thing I did like was Twilight being in a princess role. We're getting to the end of the season, and Twilight really hasn't had much of a princess role. And that's something that a lot of people, they've been talking about. People often get annoyed that Twilight being a princess in this season is not acknowledged. Like, people aren't saying, oh my goodness, you're an alicorn. Oh my goodness, you're a princess. You're Princess Twilight. And I can agree to that to some extent, but at the same time, I understand that it's a transition. They're transitioning from her being the average girl to being a princess. And I think this is one of the episodes, because she spent most of the time just being an average girl. Pinkie Pie hypes up the fact that she's a princess when she's doing the trading. And then at the end of the episode, she does do some princess work. So I'm fine. Some people also have problems with the one rule of the trade, and that's like, as long as both parties are in agreement, then it's fine. And I didn't, because Equestria is a very simple place when it comes to morals. Like, the ponies themselves, for the most part, are simple people. Maybe because I've said before in the past, we've seen jerky ponies and that they're not inherently kind. So I might be overstepping my boundaries when I say that, but somebody, I can't remember who, I think it was Tommy Oliver, or maybe it was a guest on Tommy Oliver's show, but somebody said, they described Equestria as a land of angelic beings. And when you think about angels in a lot of myths, they don't have the complexities of humans. So when somebody described Equestria like that to me, I was able to see the simplicity of the things like these kinds of rules. Like as long as both parties agree that it's fine. And a princess is there only to make sure they follow that one rule. You know, in our world, that would never work. That would never work. But, you know, I guess I see the complaint. I just don't share the complaint. But I do acknowledge that it's there. And I'm not going to say it's a bad complaint. It makes sense. But overall, this episode is meh. That is. Oh, I also didn't like the part where Fluttershy dropped her whistle. Like, just why? That didn't need to happen. That's you guys are trying to turn Fluttershy into a Mary Sue at that point. Episode 23, Inspiration Manifestation. The first good Spike episode. This is the first good, I consider this the first good Spike episode. This is the episode where Rarity becomes artistically displeased with herself because she made something for a client, but the client didn't like it at all. And she like goes into this deep depression, and Spike finds a book that allows her to create anything in her head instantly. So it allows her to create exactly what the guy wants, but the book starts corrupting her. And Spike is reluctant to tell her that it's changing her into something he doesn't like. But at the end, he winds up doing it. And the you know, I often say that I cringe when there's an obvious solution. And that solution is tell the truth. To me, the solution here did not seem obvious. And the reason I feel that way is because Spike wanted Rarity to be happy. And he could see that the book was changing her, but at the same time, he was trying to convince himself that it wasn't. So I can see the mental complexities he was going through. And I guess that's why I'm willing to give him a pass and just not telling the truth, because to him the truth wasn't necessarily the solution. But when he realized it was the solution, that there was no getting out of it, that he had to do that, he did it. He did it. And I've said before, Spike's character is about helping people, and that's what they should focus on. They did that in Spike at Your Service, but they threw in all these characteristics that he had never had before, and just didn't make sense. This one, they didn't do that. He found a book. He wasn't aware of the consequences, you know, and he just helped out Rarity. I really like this episode. I really like Spike in general. Spike is one of my more favorite characters of the show, especially when they focus on how he's helping people. And I just really like this. Some people have said that this is an allegory for a person who's an addict and confronting them, and I can certainly see that. You know, it does make a lot of sense for that to be. I didn't see it when I first watched the episode, but I certainly see it now that it's been explained to me. So overall, it's a really good episode, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Episode 24, Equestria Games. Wow! Wow! We go from one good Spike episode to another immediately after. Equestria Games. This is the episode that was hyped up. Oh, it was hyped up so much. This season alone, there were what, 2-3 episodes about the Equestria Games? Maybe just 2. I think there were only just 2. But this is the third one, so yeah, 3. I have some things to say about this episode, but let's talk about the plot first. This is where all the main 6 go to do what they were going to do in the Equestria Games. Twilight, being a princess, is going as an official. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy going to compete, and I believe Pinkie Pie, Applejack, and Rarity are just watching. But Rarity is actually used as a plot significant device, so She had a reason to be there, story-wise, is what I'm talking about. But rather than focusing on the games, they focus on Spike. Spike, because the last time he was in the Crystal Empire, well, not the last time, but you know, the last time he wasn't hiding when he was in the Crystal Empire, he saved the Crystal Empire, so they revere him as a hero. Good continuity there. And so they asked him if he'll do the honor of lighting fire. Spike's a dragon. All he has to do is blow and fire will come out. So yeah, easy task, but he gets stage fright. Some people have said that it was kind of out of character for him to get stage fright. I don't know if I would say that, because it's very different when you're tens of thousands of people watching you. Twilight helps him because alicorns don't get... I said Rarity was used as a plot device. Unicorns get their magic restricted. And that's going to come back into play later. It's so that nobody cheats. That makes sense to me. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. But alicorns don't, because they're royalty. Again, makes a whole lot of sense. So Twilight helps him. She lights the fire. Spike thinks he can light fire with his mind. And it's at this point I go, oh, are we really doing this? Are we really doing an episode where Twilight is going to be lying to Spike the whole time? But no, immediately, even though it was difficult to do, Twilight tells Spike, I helped you. I was so happy to see that. I was so happy to see that. And Spike gets depressed because he failed. Or he feels that he failed. Even though nobody else thinks he failed. And that's what this episode is about. Spike thinking that he has failed. And it ends, he does this more than once throughout the episode. And it ends with, you know, this giant ice cloud coming to crush everybody. And Spike pulls off a massive hero moment and saves everybody in the Equestria Games. And they say, they're all coming here and congratulate Spike. Like, yeah, good job, Spike, you did it, man. You saved us all. And Spike is just like, that's not really a big deal. And everybody's confused, like, what? Don't you think you finally redeemed yourself? And he's like, it just so happens that I can breathe fire. All of you would have done it if you could breathe fire. And the lesson of the episode I relate to so much. This is the first episode in a long time where I personally related to everything the character was going through. The last one I'm going to say was Applebook season. And the lesson that Spike said, it doesn't matter how much praise you get unless you feel it inside. And that is so true. I've been through that so many times in my life where people have just put me on some kind of pedestal because of something I've done. And I'm just like, it's not a big deal. And sometimes during that time, I'm feeling depressed about something I didn't do. And at the same time, you could argue the person shouldn't be feeling that way, but it's a real feeling. It is a real feeling that people go through. I can't really unjustify it because I can't think of a way that you can just say, oh, I'll just get over it or something like that. Because what does it matter if you don't feel it inside? And that's, Spike didn't really want, I don't think Spike really wanted acknowledgement. He just wanted to do what he was supposed to do. And he did it several times. I really felt that. I really felt Spike in this episode. That, on point. 2 good Spike episodes. Season 4, doing a good job with Spike in this season. But I want to talk about Equestria Games in itself. Because I said this before when we were talking about the best night ever. This is the second event that had like a major build-up within the storyline. But unlike the best night ever, it didn't focus on the conclusion. So I say that this episode is a really, really good Spike episode and a really good episode in general. But the last episode kind of, it's weird that it started a trend with just doing it once, but it did. A lot of people wanted the focus to be on the conclusions, which you've got a story. You've got a building up story. It makes sense that the focus would be on the conclusion of that story. But instead, you decide to pan the camera to the left and say, hey, here's something interesting. Well, that's nice, but I've been waiting to see this. Why aren't you focusing on this? And every once in a while, you turn and say, oh, yeah, that happened. Yeah, they won over there. Yeah. And, you know, the thing about this problem is, though, I can't think of a way to fix it. I cannot. I don't know how they would have focused on the Equestria Games and kept it interesting. Maybe had a villain attack or something. I don't know. But they saved the villain attacks for the season premieres and the season finales. So I really do like this episode. It's one of my favorite episodes. But at the same time, I acknowledge that it felt like a letdown. It really did feel like a letdown. But at the same time, I don't have a solution of how it could have been fixed. Episode 25 and 26, Twilight's Kingdom. This is the season finale. Holy dongles, was it a season finale? Freaking... Okay, so we start off with Twilight. She has to unfurl a banner, and she's starting to question why she's a princess in the first place, which is what the fandom has been thinking. That's a good question to address. It's like, I haven't really done much as a princess since I've become one. That's true. It makes me think that they did all that for a purpose. Like, it wasn't just them being ignorant of her new status. They intentionally didn't draw too much attention to the fact that she was a princess. Then this new guy, Tyrick, comes out, and he starts absorbing magic. That adds a lot of interesting aspects to the lore. It's actually created some personal theories of mine about how magic works in Equestria. And Twilight says, okay, me and my friends will go stop him. And Celestia says, nah, we have Discord. You know that guy who can do anything? He'll go stop him. Discord comes out, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go take care of Tyrick, but by the way, have you checked in that diary that you guys have been writing? Oh, I forgot to mention, at the beginning of the series, they established that they're going to be writing in a diary. And, you know, again, that's what I like about Discord, the fact that he's chaotic but still helps through a chaotic way. So Discord goes to capture Tyrick. He does, but Tyrick convinces him to turn back evil. Now, that part, I actually do have a couple of issues with. Discord is like, okay, you know, let's do this. You're right, friendship is just a prison that they have me in. Twilight goes back to Celestia, and Celestia's like, you know, it didn't even occur to me that we've only had Discord reformed for 5 minutes, and he kind of went evil again. And we don't have the elements of harmony anymore. I remember you giving those up at the beginning of the season. So we're gonna have to give you all of our magic. And Celestia's ideas in this season finale are just they're borderline stupid. It's like, why not rise up to stand together and fight him? Why would you give it to Twilight? Well, we gotta put the magic somewhere. This is just a last-ditch effort. Which you find out later that Twilight is an even match for Tyrick, even after he's absorbed Discord. So, like, why couldn't they just fight Tyrick before he got that powerful? I don't understand. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. By the way, Cadence is in this episode. Hi, Cadence. Then Twilight, she's like, okay, my friends will help me get control over this power. And Celestia's like, no, don't tell your friends anything. It's like, why? Why can't she tell her friends? Oh, and then what happens? Her friends get captured. Why? Because they didn't know that Discord had betrayed everybody with Tyrick because Twilight wasn't allowed to say anything. And it's just, Celestia is just really not smart in this episode. And then Twilight has this massive Dragon Ball Z fight with Tyrick because Dragon Ball Z, and everybody loves it. It's okay. You know, it's whatever. I don't come to My Little Pony for the Dragon Ball Z fights. Well, I don't come from My Little Pony for My Little Pony either. But still, you know, it's whatever. It was good. The animation was really good. You know, it's just not. I like Dragon Ball Z, but I didn't want to see it in My Little Pony. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad that they did it. It's just I don't love it like everybody else did. And then Tyrek betrayed Discord. Like, that part confused me. That part I didn't really like, because in my mind, Discord is the master of manipulation. So to see him I thought he had a plan, and he kind of did. He was keeping Tyrek on a leash until Tyrek proved that they were really friends, because Discord still wanted a friend. He just wanted to be chaotic and have a friend. And Fluttershy was kind of keeping him on a leash with friendship. And so he wanted to be Tyrek's friend. And when Tyrek gave him that present, he was like, oh, okay, this proves our friendship. So, by the way, there's a fourth Alicorn. And she's probably got all the magic. And then Tyrek betrays him at the end. And he's like, and Applejack's like, you really didn't see this coming? And he's like, I didn't. I truly didn't. And I'm like, really? You're the master of manipulation. I don't know, maybe that's just headcanon on my part, but I've seen him manipulate the main six so many times. It's really weird. There is a bass heavy outside. Oh, I apologize for that. Jeez. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a serious bass outside. Yeah, then at the end, Twilight rescues Discord. And everybody in the universe is like, oh, that's the sixth key, that's the sixth key. And even Twilight and gang are like, hey, you think that's the sixth key? Like, they don't even acknowledge that Discord just did this really heavy friendship thing. He's like, that's the sixth key, let's go use it. Then they get rainbow powers, Deus Ex Machina. Well, it's not really a Deus Ex Machina. I mean, we knew the box did something. We knew the box was going to be the solution to this episode. They get rainbow powers, which is like the most powerful. I don't want to say it's the most powerful, because we don't know if the elements of harmony could have defeated Tyrek. But anyway, they easily defeat Tyrek with rainbow powers and restore all of Equestria. Also, Twilight's library was destroyed, which I didn't have too much of a problem with, even though I really did like the library. But she was given a new castle, which is ugly as all outdoors. Why? There are very few people, or I should say famous people, in the fandom who like this castle. Like, I don't understand why they did that. And you know what's even more baffling? Here's what's even more baffling. Throughout this season, they've been going to the castle of the two sisters, restoring it, having memories in it. That's a much better castle! Just use the castle of the two sisters! I'm trying not to scream so loud that I break my voice, but man, that annoys me. You had the castle of the two sisters right there. They were restoring it, building it up. That it's perfect for Twilight, who is a book nerd. It's got a huge library in it. It is a library. It could replace theirs. It's only, what, an hour's walk from Ponyville? It works. It works just fine. Why make this Crystal Empire castle? It doesn't make any sense. And of course, people are like, well, it's because of toys. You know, acrylic toys are easy to sell, blah, 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 blah. And like, I don't even know if we even come back to this castle in later seasons. But that just annoyed me too much, because you could have more adventures of Twilight discovering more about the castle, reading those ancient books. She's got a whole library in there. And the castle, the theme of the castle, how it's this old style, this old relic style, that's perfect for Twilight. She loves researching stuff. She's like the Star Swirl bearded 2.0. It's so perfect. And they didn't do it. Like, I don't understand that. It makes me really dislike that new castle. And, well, even without it, I just like the new castle because the design just does not work with Ponyville at all. I say like I'm an expert on art. Yes, as a computer scientist, I know all about art. And that blue and yellow make green. I think sometimes they make brown. But, you know, I have a lot of nitpicks with this season finale, but overall, it was a really, 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 really good season finale. Another heavy tone shift, though. And we're gonna keep having heavy tone shifts from this point on with season finales. So, overall, thoughts on the season finale is good. Now, let's talk about the season in itself. As you can probably tell, this season is my favorite season of the show. And I think a part of that is because I watched the show with the fandom. I was getting heavily into the fandom. As I've said 920 times, I don't watch My Little Pony because I like it. I watch My Little Pony because I like what the content creators online create. And I want to understand what they're creating more. So that's why I watch the show. And I was getting heavily into it. But even without that, like, there was just a lot of episodes I felt were just really good. 2 fantastic Spike episodes. Maud Pie being introduced, one of the greatest characters this show has made. Freaking Apples to the Core, such a fantastic song that lots of people love. Discord was at such a good level. And honestly, I feel like, I've said before that the old seasons had things I liked, the new seasons have certain things that I like. I feel that Season 4 has the best balance of those things. What I mainly like about the old seasons was the authenticity of the friendship problems. They felt natural. In the newer seasons, they don't feel so natural because we have things telling the main 6 where to go and what to do, and it doesn't feel natural. We still don't have that element yet. But at the same time, the show is taking itself more seriously with a serious arc, and I like that about shows. I like shows that take themselves a bit more seriously. Now, they don't necessarily have to, but for example, Wander Over Yonder didn't take itself too seriously in like the first season, but once the second season came and the new villain was introduced, I really started liking that show. Even though I was already a fan of Wander Over Yonder. Same thing for My Little Pony. It feels like now it has a destination. Now, sadly, that means that we can tell inevitably that it is going to end, but shows should inevitably end. Otherwise, they end up like Fairly Odd Parents or other things that should have ended a long time ago. So overall, yeah, just really good season. This is my favorite season. This is, hands down, my favorite season. Maybe season 7 will change that. I doubt that since it has Starlight Glimmer in it, but it is what it is. So that was season 4 rundown. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this season, what you thought about certain episodes. Let me also know what you thought about this video, any ways I could improve it, and anything else you'd like to see me do in this. I couldn't finish that sentence. I couldn't know how. Anyway, I will see you guys next time we are doing season 5, where we get to meet a very special pony. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.